at the age of 65. Our colleagues are at KwaKhangelamankengane Palace. Let's take you there now live.
Well, good morning to you, Desiree. Good morning to the viewers of the agenda as well. The situation here at KwaKhangelamankengane Royal Palace starting to develop as we see more and more mourners making their way into the palace. Of course, behind me, I'm not sure if you can see, the police minister, Minister Zweli, has arrived, accompanied also by the Minister of Health, Dr. Zweli Mkhize. There are just few of the guests that are expected to be coming here. Among them, of course, is the former president of the Republic, Mr. Jacob Zuma, as well as the former Speaker of the National Assembly, Ms. Baleka Mbete. But with me, of course, to anchor this show, I've got my colleague, Ayanda Mhlongo. Ayanda, just in terms of the build-up to us being here today, how would you define the preparations for this particular memorial service?
Yeah, well, certainly, Sipio, and I think let's just remind our viewers, of course, that last night, or in the early hours of this morning, the Queen Regent Mantfombi Dlamini Zulu was, of course, interred. That was a private ceremony with members of the royal family, and she has been laid to rest here inside Kwakhangelamankengane Royal Palace. In fact, we were speaking to some of the members of the royal family earlier this morning, in terms of just them updating us on what happened during that service, and them telling us that all went well, and of course their family was now awaiting the memorial service and the final plans for the memorial service. But of course, as Simpiwe has said, the guests from this morning have already started to trickle in. He's mentioned the ministers. I also see the chairperson of the House of Traditional Leaders here in the province of Kwazulu-Natal, Nkosi Patisi's Kaliza. Of course, now standing next to us is the mayor of the Zululand District Municipality, Babutula Sizwe Buthelezi. Good morning, Mr. Mayor. Thank you so much for your time. One, I can understand it's been really difficult for yourself. You know, this is the district in which His Majesty the late King Goodwill Zwelithini in all his palaces are under your municipality, Mr. Buthelezi, and you once again confronted with another difficult situation barely a month after the passing of the king. One of the things that due to numbers, we are still under COVID-19 regulations, and in terms of the numbers of people, we know that you've had to restrict them to only 250 that have been allowed. But I know this is one memorial service that thousands of people across the district would have wanted to also be part of. Just speak to us, Mayor, in terms of what has been arranged for the ordinary members of the public.
Well, as the people of Zululand, we are here. Our hearts are heavy because less than a month ago we buried our king, and here we are burying Her Majesty the Queen with the memorial service today. But we have ensured that under the leadership of Prince Mangosuthu Buthelezi, the Zulu nation remains together. And as the people of Zululand, those who are not here are watching in the big screens so that they take part in today's service and bid their final farewell to really an amazing queen who brought together two nations, the nation of the Kingdom of Eswatini and the Zulu nation, and who empowered rural women to do crafts and to rely on their own strength, and revived cultural customs such as Umkhosi Wesivivane, which nurtured young women to play their role in society. Therefore, as the people of Zululand, there is a gaping hole that has been left, but we know that God will remember us and we will rise again from the ashes.
Just speaking about that, I know, Mr. Mayor, when we spoke to you in the preparations for the King's planting a month back, you're heavy heart, considering the support that the royal family gives to the municipality, the support that the royal family in terms of the projects, and working with the community in terms of growth and development in this district. And as you're mentioning there, the late Regent Queen Mantfombi Mantfombi as well, particularly working with young girls. She was very invested in the youth, invested in young girls, but also worked with women in this community to develop them. I know she started sewing schools. She's also started projects, garden projects, so that they were able to sustain themselves. So certainly I think in terms of the role that she played, this has been a big blow for this district.
It's a huge blow because the Queen passed away as regent, which really symbolized and brought forward the role of women in leading in Zulu society. It's a big blow because the rural women who under the years had been under her mentorship will now have to start from scratch. But the role that the royal family has provided as a source of social cohesion to society, one cannot underestimate that role, and we hope to continue to work together with the princes and the princesses who were brought under the Queen.
Thank you so much. So the mayor of the Zululand District Municipality, Thulasizwe Buthelezi, of course, just explaining what the loss of the Queen Regent Queen Mantfombi has meant for this community, for the people of the Zululand District. And of course, we are continuing to and speak to some of the guests that are here to be part of today's memorial service, as the people of Kwazulu-Natal, the people of South Africa, bid farewell to the late Queen Regent. We now have the Minister of Health, Dr. Zweli Mkhize. Minister, thank you very much for agreeing to chat with us this morning. Certainly, it's been a difficult time for the Zulu nation, a double blow, in fact, a triple blow, in the sense that the King first lost his son, the Prince Lethuthula, His Majesty then bowing, and now the Queen Regent Mantfombi.
Certainly, it has been a devastating time for the royal house. This is the fourth loss in the royal family. If we could recall that His Majesty lost two sons, actually. The two sons, it was also quite sad because they were lost at their prime, and we still expected a lot from them. We loved them, and in particular, we believe that they have a very strong role to play in the future of our country. Now, the loss of His Majesty was, of course, the most traumatic. None of us living at this time went through the kind of anguish before that we have experienced with the loss of His Majesty, who was highly loved and very respected, and literally was part of our day-to-day lives in a way that really made everyone feel very proud and strong as part of the colorful people of South Africa. Of course, at this point, the loss of the Regent Queen has also come as a before the wounds were healed, and therefore we do understand that the royal family is in deep pain and anguish, and we want to convey our condolences to the royal family for the very sad loss, both the royal family in KwaZulu-Natal and the people of South Africa, as well as people of Eswatini, where she hails from. And she had helped to maintain a very strong bond and relationship between our peoples, and therefore her departure really has been a source of sadness.
I'm bringing my colleague Simpiwe Makhanya into the conversation. Of course, Dr. Mkhize Simpiwe has been here throughout the week engaging with the community here. And I know when you were still in the province as the MECs in the respective roles here in the province of KwaZulu-Natal, and then leading the province as the Premier, the royal family giving a great deal of support to the KZN government. We've just seen driving around KwaNongoma over the years, just not even KwaNongoma, the Zululand district where they were largely, where they stayed, just to see the developments from the schools to projects that the royal family have been involved in, also working together with the government.
Certainly, one of the strength of the royal house was the extent to which the royal house, led by His Majesty and the Queens, were very instrumental in mobilizing for unity and peace in the province of KwaZulu-Natal, and also acted as champions for rural development, supporting various regions and various programs of government to make sure that they are acceptable and they are well received by the communities. And so the Regent Queen was actually part of the program to restore lots of cultural activities and reviving customs that were very, old customs, but that became very, very helpful when we were dealing with the challenges that faced the province. So, for example, the program that was related to Umhlanga became very strong, and we used that as government as a platform to interact with the rural people to discuss issues of gender-based violence, self-respect, and also women emancipation, and in particular abstinence amongst young women. It made it very easy to discuss a very difficult topic of sexuality with rural people because of the upbringing, but it made it much easier because then people were able to relate to the challenges that we had to deal with. It helped a lot. And then with women in the province as well, there was a lot of work done to build up women for their own issues of empowerment. There was a big project which was run from here, which was a bead-making program, and then a lot of cultural dance types that actually women were involved in. There was a group here called the Sipiti, yes, and they really made a huge contribution in nation building and cultural diversity. So we do believe that the Royal House in general has to be supported because that role they played has helped cohesion and nation building.
Well, Minister, we unfortunately cannot let you go without engaging you on the COVID-19 situation in the country. Well, the arrival of the Indian variant in our shores has caused a great deal of concern for some citizens, saying we could perhaps be seeing a third wave as a result of this variant. What are you doing to avert the situation?
Well, firstly, we have been very concerned about the increased number of people infected in India. We are very concerned, particularly if you look back sometime in February, around mid-February, South Africa had more COVID positive cases than was in India. So India was at some point around 9,000 people recorded. Right now they've gone over 400,000. So it gives us a first lesson that we cannot be complacent. We must understand that what happened in India could happen anywhere, and therefore we need to go back to the basics to make sure that we deal with the containment measures. We are emphasizing this message at this point so that people must understand that we went through the second wave, which was quite decimating, but we did so without the vaccines, but we used basic preventative measures of hand washing, distancing, enforcement of people staying in small numbers and avoiding crowded spaces, and improved ventilation and so on. We want to emphasize that that is the most important approach, because we were able to survive the second wave because of that. So even if you could get the problem as bad as India, there is no magic. The main thing is to go back to those basics. Having said so, we are intensifying our surveillance, and so we are watching all the ships that have come from different parts of the world, and we're screening people, and they're making sure that no one walks into the country without us knowing their status. Also, we don't have a direct flight from India, but at the same time we have actually tested a number of people who have come from India to check. At the moment we have found that they don't have the demonstration of the variant in India. They've demonstrated the variant that we have in South Africa. I may as well say that the variant that they found in India has actually not been demonstrated to be worse than the one that we have in South Africa. So it's important for us to always know that even without having people coming from India, we have a much more problematic variant in South Africa. But we are monitoring. We've yesterday been indicating that some of the areas are showing some increases, although the numbers are still very low. Northern Cape, Northwest, Free State, and now Gauteng. And so we need to send a message to South Africans that we're not out of the woods. We can actually delay a further increase in the numbers. by sticking to the basics of using of mask, distancing, hand washing, sanitizers, and at the same time ensure that we stay in smaller crowds and avoid overcrowded, poorly ventilated areas.
Minister, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you very much.
That's Health Minister Dr. Zweli Mkhize. Perhaps let me just correct myself. It's not actually an Indian variant, but it's the first variant which was found in India. My colleague Ayanda, thank you very much for that. Well, we will certainly be here to monitor the developments as more and more people continue to make their way to bid farewell to the late regent of Amazulu nation, Queen Mantfombi Dlamini Zulu. Desiree?
We will continue to bring you the latest coming from that part of the world. But for now, let's take a break. You're watching